I decided to take the plunge, get my own place, and I found this tiny little unit, this grubby little spot. But I was like, I'm going to transform this into my own Café Cùil, and Cuil being Gaelic for cosy nest or noose. So I wanted to create that like comfortable atmosphere in East London. I opened in February 2020. Our first weekend, we'd sold out of tatty scones. I'd never seen so many Scottish people in my life actually than I did in East London. But 5 weeks later, we started hearing these like rumours and murmurs. The hospitality industry in the whole of the UK, we had to close our doors. I was in such a state of confusion. Me and my husband Dave and our rescue dog Peggy got in a car and drove home to Skye. Those weeks turned into months, and it started to dawn on me that all of the effort that I'd put into opening my dream cafe was sort of dwindling. I genuinely believed in the concept so much and I wanted to keep that alive, so I did everything I could, and I knew that I was going to execute that concept whether it was in London or back home in Skye. I'm Claire, I'm the chef and owner of Café Cùil. Café Cùil is a daytime restaurant based here on the Isle of Skye. It's our 5th year on the Isle of Skye, but we originally started down in Hackney in East London in 2020. I grew up in a hotel at Sliggachan. It was in my family for over 100 years, since 1913. So it was quite an interesting upbringing actually. Although I enjoyed it and it had lots of pros, I actually told myself when I was younger I wanted nothing to do with hospitality because it is hard, it's really stressful. When I finished school, I then went into media and I ended up working for BBC and down in London as well. But when I was down in London, I really realised that hospitality is something I missed, and I missed a taste of Scotland more than anything, so I thought I want to open my own place. And I don't know if it was because I was young, I was quite naive, and I just went for it. So I finished school in Skye and then I headed down to Edinburgh, studied media and ended up graduating in New Zealand actually. As you know, when you're skint and you're in your early 20s, you'll do anything. I was working at Tennant's Brewery in Glasgow. I was working at the Isle of Skye Candle Company with my friends who ran that. During that time, I was like, right, I need to do something related to my degree. So I got a couple of placements at BBC Scotland, and then I also entered, me and my best mate Neil, into a Channel 4 cooking competition called My Kitchen Rules. So I was skint and that's what we wanted to do. We had no real experience in cooking at all. 40 other teams against around the whole of the UK. And week by week, we kept knocking them out, the other teams out. We're kind of looking at each other like, how have we managed this? And long story short, we ended up going on to win the whole competition and were crowned Britain's best home cooks at the age of like 24. After we won that competition, instead of opening a restaurant like most people normally would, I ended up working in TV. So that was sort of the beginning of it for me. Eventually I was like, this isn't really for me. I don't watch half of the shows that I'm shooting. So I'm going to follow my gut and start getting, a bit of work experience in different kitchens around London. I'd worked in restaurants not only at my family's hotel, but across Scotland through uni and whatnot, but I'd never worked in the kitchen before. I'd always been front of house. So I said to myself, I need to start from the beginning. And so I got a job in East London at a wonderful cafe that's still going called Deanie's, which is opened and run by my friend Carol, and started doing a couple of events in the evenings where I was able to do a little bit of, back of house cooking and helping with prep and whatnot. And then I ended up getting a job at the Lighthouse Cafe, also run by another wonderful female chef called Jen. And that is when she gave me a chance to take on the days off of her head chef. And that's where I started to learn my trade. And my God, it was a tough time of having to pick up the skills as fast as possible when you're up against it in service as well. But I think that is where I really cut my teeth with cooking. And I think that is actually where I got a lot of my influence from in terms of my style of cooking. The Café Cùil concept is all about celebrating Scotland and Scottish produce, but my style and influence is very much from East London. So the concept of Café Cùil what it was in London and what it is here on Skye is Scottish, seasonal and sustainable. And it's all about celebrating the ingredients that I grew up around, you know? Ingredients that were so readily available to me growing up, like langoustines, crabs, scallops, venison. What I couldn't see in London was they weren't accessible ingredients down there. You had to pay 120 quid for a taster menu to get a taste of the finest island produce. And so I wanted to create a concept that was casual eating and accessible and welcoming. And that is what I've been able to recreate up on Skye. And I can do it so much more easily up here because I've got so much more of a connection to even the suppliers, but also the staff that I work with. A lot of them I've known since I was young. So whenever I'm writing the menus, we actually change our menus with the seasons. It will be full of ingredients that we can source, like wild garlic, rhubarb, gorse. So a lot of the stuff that we put onto our menus is things that are handpicked and foraged by the team. Whether it's, you know, something that comes from the sea or from the land or what we've picked ourselves, it's all about the connection that I and the team have to those ingredients, and it's really quite fun. It's like doing it in a playful way. My favourite thing from the Café Cùil menu, it's actually got to be our langoustine roll, which we do with a smoked andouille butter. And we also make a bisque from the shells, and then we like dip the roll into the bisque. That is probably my favourite dish for me to eat, but also it's like celebrating those langoustines. It's probably my favourite ingredient to cook with, and you're using every part of it as well. I took that dish to New York a couple of years ago and fed over 700 New Yorkers out of Madison Square Park with them, so I think it's a winner. So Tartan Week, if anyone's ever heard of it, it's this bizarre celebration of Scotland over in New York that happens every year in every April. And a few years ago I saw it online and I was like, I want to be part of that. Don't know how I'm going to be part of it, but I'm going to be. I scanned the streets of New York on Google Maps and reached out to about 50 different restaurants asking if they would take me on for a pop-up. Most of them said no, most of them didn't reply, and then one said yes. And so I booked my flight. When I was over there, I got the call from Visit Scotland to ask if I would like to cook out of their food truck on Madison Square Park. And I ended up, serving over 700 lobster rolls and even speaking some Gaelic out of the hatch. So dream come true, but no one asked me. Like, I feel like that was one of those situations, like even the cafe in my life, where I just had to do it myself and get through it and then enjoy it as well. I think I would love to do a Café Cùil pop-up in somewhere quite obscure that has a completely varying or polar opposite cuisine to what we do. I would honestly, Japan keeps popping into my head. That would be awesome. Maybe it would be something to do with their whiskey and pairing that with something over here. Japan. It's next on the list. I think what Café Cùil does that differentiates itself from other cafes is that it stays quite true to the concept. I feel like although food is, of course, super important to me, I'm the chef, I create all the menus, I actually think it's the atmosphere and the energy that we create in the cafe. It's that cozy feeling. It's for people to remember their experience when they come into this building. I actually think that is the lasting memory that a lot of customers have when they come through the doors. And I think that, that is hospitality. It's making people feel welcome. Our service, our kindness, and how welcoming we are to customers, paired with our food, our menus, and the pride that we have in both of those things is what sets us apart. When I first took on this place, I was like, it's far too big. I'm never going to be able to fill it. I'd say we're about 70 covers, so it's like a really large space. You wouldn't believe it, because we're quite geographically remote, right? We're in the middle of nowhere, we've got the loch behind us. We can sometimes serve up to 300 people a day, and that is from 10 a.m. till 4 p.m. So in 6 hours, we can do 300 covers, which is insane. Sometimes we'll open the door and there'll be a queue out the door for the whole day. And my God, I'm so grateful for that, because hospitality is a tough industry. But, we weren't always a queue out the door. There was days when we first opened in London and on Skye when we'd be dead. When I first opened it, I was in the kitchen every day. I was on that pass and I loved it, and I still do love it when I dip my toe in. But as the years have gone on, the business has grown. I feel like the business and the brand, whatever that word really means, has grown with it. So my responsibility as the owner of Café Cùil is to almost take a step back out of the weeds and the day-to-day running of things and see the business as a whole. So my day-to-day is thinking a day ahead. I'm often like out creating new dishes or food writing. The Café Cùil cookbook, I published it in November 2025. So a few months ago now. Oh my God, what a ride that was. It was so exciting to finally publish my own cookbook. But the reason I actually wrote it took me over a year to write, but it's because the amount of visitors that we'd have into the cafe who would enjoy their food and then get me out of the kitchen and make me write out the recipe on a napkin. I think about 100 napkins later, I thought, this has got to be a book. I need to consolidate all of these recipes. And it's basically a celebration of all of our iconic dishes from Café Cùil over the years, from London to Skye, but also a bit of a love letter to the Isle of Skye and my appreciation for everything it's done for me.
And you save money on napkins.
Loads of money on napkins saved as well. I get asked this question a lot, whether I would open another Café Cùil. As I think in hospitality, if you're doing well or a place is really popular, that is like the obvious next step. But personally, I'm so proud of what I've achieved here on Skye, and I think that our menus and our ethos is so tied into the island itself that for me to open one in a city again, we'd lose that connection. So I actually think that my role or my purpose now that I have this fantastic restaurant and platform is to celebrate Skye and our ingredients more through either more food writing or a bit more food media and, you know, spreading that word maybe more on a global stage like New York. So I think that's what I hope's in store, but I'm always open to options. Hospitality is like under it at the moment. Like a lot of people are struggling and there's so much going on about the news and about how difficult it is to run a hospitality business, and it really is. You've got to love it, I will say that, but it's so rewarding in many ways, and I think that if you've got the opportunity to put your hometown or your island, in my instance, on a platform and celebrate it as much as possible, you should. And I hope that everyone who comes into Café Cùil knows that that is why we do what we do. And I can't wait for you to come and try it.
Thank you very much.
Cool.
That is all right.
Is that all good?
Yeah.